Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about reacting to and diving into the rabbit hole of the band known as Pink Floyd. Now, you've probably seen the design from their most famous album on millions of t-shirts, and you're possibly wondering why I'm not wearing one. After all, I'm wearing a Page and Plant t-shirt. Well, I don't have one. In fact, I don't have a lot of rock and roll t-shirts anymore. It's kind of what happens when you grow up and out. So anyway, regardless, this is a band that was started in 1965 in London. They were the architects of psychedelic rock and prog rock, even often called space rock, and very much artsy music. They were at the forefront. This is a band that can make you feel, and feel deeply. The members were, well, the first founding member was Syd Barrett, guitar and vocals, Roger Waters on bass, David Gilmour on guitars, Richard Wright on keyboards, and Nick Mason on drums. And by the way, no one's Pink. So before we get into the albums and which songs are the ones I think you should listen to, at least first. Actually, I think you should listen to everything on Pink Floyd's catalog. But before we get into that, please like, subscribe. Like I said before, I subscribe to your channels. It's time for you to subscribe to mine. Help support me, and we'll keep doing these as long as we get support. So, first album's in 1967 called The Piper at the Gates of Dawn. This outstanding song from that is Astronomy Domine. Like I said, this was very experimental music, very psychedelic. Syd Barrett was firmly in charge of the group at this time. And like I said, all this is best listened to from start to finish on the album. But if you're going to pick a song from this album, I would start with Astronomy Domine. 1968 had Saucer Full of Secrets. This is one of my favorite early Pink Floyd albums. Certainly not my favorite album of all, but I would definitely say this title cut is in 4 parts. Listen to that. And Set the Controls for the Heart of the Sun is definitely one if you want to pick out one to listen to alone. 1969's Ummagumma Live. Don't really have anything that... It's not one of their better albums. It is live stuff, but yeah, they only had 2 albums before that, so there's not a lot to choose from that wasn't on their first albums. 1970 brought Atom Heart Mother. First song, or the title song, is in 6 parts. These are long tunes. Alan's Psycho Breakfast is in 3 parts, also very long, obviously, or when in 3 parts. So these are long things. They are trippy stuff. If you're an imbiber, that would be a good time to do it. Yeah, and then 1971, Meddle, also very much more commercially available album to the public at the time. One of These Days is one of my favorite early Pink Floyd songs, and there are actually good live recordings of this with video. Try Live in Pompeii. An incredible movie. Echoes, 23-minute masterpiece. Yeah, if you got time for it and your head can handle it, go for Echoes. 1972, Obscured by Clouds. I don't have much on this one. It was at the end of Syd Barrett's term. He was going insane, put it quite frankly. And in fact, a lot of the music from the next 2 or 3 albums was referring to Mr. Barrett, either in sympathy or describing the situation or whatever, but they kept going back to this theme of Syd Barrett. So in 1973, Pink Floyd released their signature album, and it's called Dark Side of the Moon. You've seen the t-shirts, you've seen the design. It's eponymous at this point. is a concept album. You really, really need to listen to this one from start to finish. If if you are a reactor and you don't like doing it that way, listen to the whole thing at one time, record it all, and cut it into pieces for your reactions. That's fine. But really, listen to this whole thing. But there are standout singles from it. And like I said, I would avoid doing these live. I would avoid doing, reacting to these until you've heard the album. But, it's your channel. I can only tell you what to do. Can't force you. It was, the album was basically about the mental decline of Sid Vicious, of Sid. And it really is one of the deepest things you'll ever listen to, as far as just exploring psyches and madness. But singles are Money, Us and Them, Speak to Me, Breathe in the Air, On the Run, Time, and The Great Gig in the Sky. As far as live stuff, you'll see some of these on later concerts, but again, it's not all those original members, and it doesn't have the sonic. I mean, these concerts are recorded very well, the later ones, but still they don't have the depth that you'll hear and the detail you'll hear in the albums. In 1975, the band released "Wish You Were Here." It was a critique of the music business. It was a tribute to Syd Barrett. The title song is a 9-part tribute to Syd, in fact. And as there's a couple that you could probably pull out of here if you needed to. Let's see, they actually did have a single out for "Wish You Were Here," for "Welcome to the Machine" and "Have a Cigar." But on side 1, it's "Shine On You Crazy Diamond," parts 1 through 5, and "Welcome to the Machine." Side 2 is "Have a Cigar," "Wish You Were Here," and "Shine On," parts 6 through 9. In 1977, another concept album, "Animals." This one has been called extreme, relentless, iconoclastic. Well, that was my word, so it's still been called that. It's an uncomfortable taste of reality, and it's based on the George Orwell book Animal Farm, which was a critique of and criticism of communism back in the day. Like I said, I don't like to do spoilers on here. I'm not going to play you anything. I'm not going to explain everything to you, but loosely, the book was about the different breeds of animals taking over a farm and running it kind of like a communist government. And the animals that are featured in the album are the predatory dogs. You have the despotic, ruthless pigs, the mindless and unquestioning herd of sheep. And these are all animals featured in the album. The album starts out with "Pigs on the Wing," dogs, pigs, 3 different ones, sheep, and "Pigs on the Wing" part 2. Again, hard to pull any of these songs out and just listen to them without losing a lot of the appreciation of the entire piece. So again, and you'll hear me say this one more time. 1979, "The Wall." "The Wall" is another concept album. It's extremely, it does have some singles you can pull out of it, but they really make a lot more sense, especially if you pull out of the movie, because there was the movie was released 1982, so 3 years after the album. I would recommend listening to it the way we heard it, which was not on the radio. You sat down with those albums, listen to the whole thing, let it exhaust your emotions. If you are any kind of snowflake, right wing, left wing, doesn't matter. If you're a snowflake, you're going to have a hard time getting through this album if you are actually listening to what it's about. It's It was inspired by Roger Waters' childhood. He had a father in World War II, died, and it goes into a bit of more commentary on Sid again as well. I think this is probably the last album that they did that did have a lot of emphasis on Sid. But okay, you have a single in the United States, Run Like Hell, and Another Brick in the Wall, Part 2. These are both good songs. You can listen to them on their own, but again, if you want to really get a good feel for it, listen to the full album. And then, when you have time, watch the movie. The movie spells it out for you, and it's a really good movie. But again, it's an emotional dive into some of the deepest things that are inside you that you didn't know were there, or maybe you've tried to get rid of. So yeah, that's a warning, I guess, for people who need trigger warnings. So yeah, those were really the albums that define Pink Floyd as the quintessential progressive psychedelic band. They did have more albums with plenty of good music on it. The final cut came out in 1983. In 85, A Momentary Lapse in Reason. In fact, that was the first time I saw Pink Floyd in concert, was for that tour. And The Division Bell in 94. And there was a 1974 Dark Side tour film, which is definitely worth, if you want to really dive into this group, into the workings of this group, is a good film to look at. And I think I mentioned Live in Pompeii was one that I used to really meditate to. And other than that, there's the last concert in 2005, which is in London. It features Speak to Me, Breathe, Reprise, and Money, along with Comfortably Numb and Wish You Were Here. Not all the original members, but it's a good concert. It's very well recorded, and a lot of people react to it. So let the good times roll.